This is CBN NewsWatch.
And thanks for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Heather Sells. A historic step towards peace in the Middle East to report. The first ever ambassador from the United Arab Emirates to Israel arrived in the Jewish state on Monday. It is part of Israel's new relationship with its Middle East neighbors, thanks to the recently negotiated Abraham Accords. Israel played the Emirati national anthem to welcome the new ambassador. Mohammed Al-Khaja presented his credentials to Israeli President Reuven Rivlin, who thanked God in Hebrew and Arabic.
You should know that not only am I moved, the entire Israeli people are excited and welcome you with joy.
Earlier, Al-Khaja met with Israel's foreign minister and said they were already talking about how to better get to know each other.
We are very much looking forward to working together. My mission here is to foster and develop this relationship.
The Abraham Accord is a paradigm shift in the region.
Israel has already sent ambassadors to Abu Dhabi and Dubai in the United Arab Emirates. Meanwhile, the Jerusalem Post is reporting that Israel, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and Bahrain have informally discussed a possible security alliance. The report comes at a time of growing tensions in the region with Iran. The countries believe a nuclear Iran would be a security threat, and they're concerned about the Biden administration's plan to rejoin the Iranian nuclear deal. Well, the Biden administration has announced sanctions for 7 Russian government members and 14 businesses. That's in response to the poisoning and arrest of opposition leader Alexei Navalny. Navalny says the Russian government poisoned him last year. In January, Russian police arrested him, saying he violated probation terms from money laundering charges. He was sentenced to 3.5 years in prison. Biden officials say the sanctions are the first of several steps planned in response to, quote, destabilizing actions by Russian President Vladimir Putin. Well, in Nigeria, the parliament has issued an urgent appeal to the Nigerian president to rescue a Christian pastor ahead of his possible execution. Islamic terrorists are threatening to kill Pastor Bulus Yakura on Thursday if their ransom demands are not met. They kidnapped him in December, and they've released a video of Yakura announcing his execution on March the 4th. Well, meanwhile, 279 Nigerian girls are back with their families after being kidnapped by dozens of armed men. The girls were abducted from a boarding school 4 days ago. It was the 3rd mass abduction in Nigeria's northwest in recent months. Well, CBN senior international correspondent George Thomas joins us now to discuss the plight of the pastor and our other top international stories. George, a lot going on here. The Muslim kidnappers are threatening to kill this pastor on Thursday. Do we think this will happen? What's the latest here?
Yeah, I mean, it's uncertain. I mean, everybody's holding their breath all across Nigeria. People are praying in the next 48 hours. The Islamic terrorists, they don't want to, ultimately what they want is that they want the government to pony up some money, hoping the Christian community will band together. There's no indication that that is happening right now, and all efforts are in the next 48 hours to try and get this released, get this pastor released. Nigeria's parliament, as you mentioned, made an urgent plea to the government, and obviously this pastor has taken sort of the prominence in the last few weeks, drawing attention to his plight.
So gripping. And we know that for more than a decade, Boko Haram and other Islamic groups they've launched terror across the country. Yeah. And we know that this kidnap for ransom scheme seems to be a new trend. What's the advantage for them? Yeah, I mean,
let's not be fooled here. They continue to kill people, continue to launch terror attacks, but clearly they've discovered in the last 12, 14 months that this tactic, as you saw, 279 girls kidnapped. The tactic is let's grab these girls, let's grab these Christians, and hopefully the government responds responds, the Christian community responds. So far, it is working. It apparently is working, and it's a cash cow for them. And obviously, there's a lot of criticism against the Nigerian government that they're allowing this to happen. But in these parts, like, for example, in the northeast part of Nigeria, you know, they don't have police officers. They don't have a presence of the military. So these boarding schools, primarily with, you know, girls and boys, are easy targets. And right now they're reaping a lot of money from this particular scheme.
All right, and I just want to circle back on one thing. We were talking about the parliament appealing to the president. Yeah. Does the president really hold sway with these Islamic terrorist groups? Well,
the problem is that Muhammad Buhari is from the largest Muslim ethnic group. He's part of the Fulani ethnic group, and the criticism that human rights groups as well as Christians have made against President Buhari is that he basically is tone deaf to the plight of Christians, plight of these girls, that he really is not doing anything because he is a Muslim, and that's the concern. That's been the criticism by various groups.
Okay. Well, I want to speak with you about two other top international stories, and one of them is Russia, and we are seeing the U.S. imposing sanctions now. Might these make a difference? How are we seeing the Russians respond?
Yeah, well, Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said in response to the sanctions, he said, quote, "Nobody canceled one of the rules of diplomacy, reciprocity." And so he said that Russia would vow to respond in kind to these new sanctions. But clearly, what the administration, the Biden administration, wants to do is that they want to set themselves apart from the previous administration. The accusation was that Trump coddled Vladimir Putin. Biden wants to send a very clear and different approach.
All right, George Thomas, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Here at home, more trouble for New York Governor Andrew Cuomo. A third woman has now come forward with a sexual harassment claim. CBN's Tara Mergener reports that Cuomo is still under scrutiny for his handling of the state's COVID crisis.
The state attorney general's office is now leading what's being called a rigorous investigation. This as calls for Governor Cuomo's resignation grow louder, and he maintains his innocence.
I know that there is a pattern of abusive and manipulative behavior from him. I do think that it is time for our governor to resign.
Calls from inside his own party that Cuomo should step down are intensifying after several women came out with sexual harassment claims, among them 2 former staffers.
She alleges that the governor asked her direct questions about her sex life, whether or not she was monogamous in her relationships, whether or not she had ever slept with an older man.
Charlotte Bennett telling the New York Times it happened last spring, and that while the governor never got physical, he told her he was open to relationships with women in their 20s. She says, "I understood that the governor wanted to sleep with me and felt horribly uncomfortable and scared." Cuomo denies the allegations and in a statement Sunday says, "Some of the things I have said have been misinterpreted as an unwanted flirtation. To the extent anyone felt that way, I am truly sorry about that."
That's not an apology. He seemed to be saying, "Oh, I was just kidding around." You know, sexual harassment is not funny.
Cuomo also denies earlier sexual harassment claims by former aide Lindsey Boylan.
It's just not true.
Facing backlash over plans to name his own investigator, Cuomo has referred the case to the New York State Attorney General.
We have to keep politics out of this, get what actually did or did not happen.
The White House also now calling for an independent review.
And that's certainly something he supports and we believe should move forward as quickly as possible.
The new allegations come as the FBI investigates whether Governor Cuomo covered up the coronavirus death toll in New York's nursing homes.
The truth is everybody did everything they could.
The scrutiny growing by the day and now reaching a boiling point. Fox News contributor Janice Dean telling CBN News the death of her in-laws in a New York nursing home led her to speak out against the governor.
I was learning this after my in-laws died. We had no idea that there was this executive order in place, and I wasn't seeing the news stories out there.
There are also reports that bipartisan calls to strip Cuomo of emergency pandemic powers are gaining steam. Tara Mergener, CBN News.
Thank you, Tara. And Tim Graham is the Director of Media Analysis for the Media Research Center, and he joins us now with more on Governor Cuomo. Tim, thanks for being here.
Sure.
I want to ask you, of course, the mainstream media has been extolling Cuomo for much of the pandemic. Now he's in trouble. How is the media covering the allegations of sexual assault?
Well, they actually are covering them. I would have to say that probably what happened here was it was reported by the New York Times, and so it matters. I mean, obviously, if this was reported by the Washington Times first, or Fox News, or the New York Post, they tend to say, well, we can ignore that. But this was in the New York Times, so they decided this is real news. I mean, we saw it on Sunday morning. The networks, the morning shows were all reporting it. Well, I guess except for CBS, which isn't much of a news show on Sunday morning. But they're covering it now. I think the real issue is why they weren't covering it months ago. I mean,
yeah, I wanted to ask you about that, if I can interrupt you, because you've written about the extent to which the mainstream media praised him, of course, during the early months of the pandemic. What was their motivation behind praising him, and how do you think that has helped him up to this point?
I think they were very eager to promote this narrative of he was the anti-Trump, he was the counter-Trump, he was the real COVID president. Remember that CNN wasn't only running the White House coronavirus briefings sometimes. They were routinely running the Cuomo coronavirus briefings in Albany, nationwide, CNN was. So the idea that he was the other president they were pushing it in their quote-unquote news judgment. And they did present him as the leader. I mean, Lester Holt interviewed him on NBC and made him sound like Churchill in World War II. And, they're not reminding anybody of any of this now. But, they did a terrible job last year. I mean, we found, 400 mentions of him on the network newscasts. Just 2 of them mentioned his disastrous plans with the nursing homes. Yeah, so fascinating. And now, of course, the New York Attorney General is issuing a report that showed the state's nursing home death toll from COVID could be 50% higher than the Cuomo administration reported. How has the mainstream media covered this new report coming out showing the cover-up? They didn't really want to cover that report. And what's interesting about that is, here again, the Attorney General of the state of New York is a Democrat. The only real pushback that Governor Cuomo seems to get that matters to the press is Democrats. It's almost like you're sort of watching a fight go on inside the Democratic Party, because when they do stories about Cuomo, you're generally not going to see Republican critics in New York State or New York City. You might see Mayor de Blasio, a fellow Democrat, trashing him, but it's almost like this whole story is a fight between Democrats. Very interesting. And just in a few minutes, what do you predict going forward, Tim? How's the media going to cover Cuomo as he seemingly continues to implode? I think they're going to look to get beyond it. I think we would probably suggest, if we're going to be skeptical, is sort of the Ralph Northam model here in Virginia, where there was an uproar over a photo he was taken where he was either the guy in blackface or the guy wearing the Klan hood, and then he decided he wasn't either one of those. They never resolved who he was, and he's still governor. So, I mean, I think that there's going to be a tendency here to let him be governor, and he may even run for re-election. It may be up more to the Democrats than it is to the press. So interesting. All right. Well, Tim Graham, we appreciate your time and your insights. Thanks. Coming up, a unique way parents can help their children receive a balanced education.
Hey, if you're tired and exhausted all day, you can't think clearly, and you really just need a cup or even a pot of coffee to get through your day, then join me, Dr. Josh Axe, for this new series where I'm going to teach you how to transform your diet and use essential oils and supplements to get a better night's sleep.
Wake up to your best life. Call 1-800-700-7000 to get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
It's about the competition.
I kind of put that pressure on myself, and I think people had expectations.
It's about overcoming.
We use this phrase all the time: keep chopping, keep practicing hard.
It's about going the distance.
You know, I think as a father, it's my job, to lead. Just be the best husband and father I can be.
Watch Going the Distance with Sean Brown Saturday night at 7:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Orphans Promise is committed to loving and serving at-risk children, to helping keep families together, and to creating opportunities for strong and sustainable communities around the world. We're working in over 60 countries around the world, and with your help, we can do even more. There's an old African proverb I love that says, if you want to run fast, run alone. But if you want to run far, run together. At Orphans Promise, we want to run far so we can touch the lives of as many orphaned and vulnerable children as possible. But we don't want to go alone. We're out to change the world, one child, one family, one community at a time. Will you join us?
As schools are gearing up to reopen across the country, there's growing concern about the push to include liberal viewpoints in curriculum. To counter that move, the nonprofit Prager University recently created an online program called PrEP, which stands for PragerU Resources for Educators and Parents. In just a few months, the program has equipped more than 6,000 parents and educators with tools to give students a balanced education. In other news, Bethany Christian Services has announced it will begin placing children in LGBTQ families nationwide. Bethany is one of the country's largest adoption and foster care agencies. In a press statement, Bethany said, "Faith in Jesus is at the core of our mission, but we are not claiming a position on the various doctrinal issues about which Christians of mutual good faith may disagree. We acknowledge that discussions about doctrine are important, but our sole job is to determine if a family can provide a safe, stable environment for children." And we have more on this story at cbnnews.com. We want to remind you of a new free service from CBN News. A CBN News daily email called Quick Start gives you the stories that you need each morning at 7 a.m. Eastern. And you can receive important national, international, and faith-based news delivered right to your email inbox. You can subscribe to Quick Start at www.quickstart.news. Still ahead, a beloved children's author is under fire. We'll tell you why.
Daddy?
Yeah, buddy.
How many nickels are in a dollar?
There are 20 nickels in a dollar.
How do birds fly? Does milk really make my bones stronger?
Yeah.
Daddy, when we die, will we go to heaven?
Do you have the answer to life's biggest question? Call the 700 Club. We'll help you find answers to the important questions life brings your way.
Watch breaking news, in-depth exclusive stories and programs from health to entertainment you won't find anywhere else. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. Enjoy credible news reporting from around the world. Discover inspiring programs and stories of hope, all in one place from a Christian perspective. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. To watch the CBN News Channel, download the app or visit cbnnewschannel.com.
Hello, I'm Dr. David Perlmutter, board-certified neurologist and #1 New York Times bestselling author. Wouldn't it be great to boost your energy, eliminate brain fog, and even reverse brain disease? Well, you can, and I'm going to show you how, along with some of the world's most well-respected brain experts, in this DVD, Protect Your Brain.
Get Protect Your Brain, a free DVD only from the Christian Broadcasting Network, featuring experts on the cutting edge of neuroscience and brain health.
No matter how many times you've failed in the past, you really can do this.
In Protect Your Brain, you'll discover simple strategies to keep your brain young and healthy. Improve your memory. Discover the gut-brain connection. In Protect Your Brain. Get your free copy at cbn.com or call 1-800-700-7000.
If you want to improve the quality of your life, get the DVD Protect Your Brain and get it today.
Today is the birthday of the famous children's book author Dr. Seuss. It is also the National Education Association's Read Across America Day. But this year, the NEA is pivoting away from Dr. Seuss, and President Biden appears to have taken the cue. His presidential proclamation for the day omits Dr. Seuss's name, unlike previous ones from President Trump and Obama. Both President Obama and First Lady Michelle have read Dr. Seuss books at public events. The current backlash stems over concerns about racism in Dr. Seuss's books. The business that preserves the author's legacy said today that it will stop publishing 6 of his books because of Seuss's hurtful portrayals of people. And Trillia Newbell is a children's book author who writes about diversity, and she joins us now to talk about Dr. Seuss books. Trillia, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So you are the perfect person to speak into this, I think, because your career is really focused a lot on children and on books. So from your perspective, have you questioned Dr. Seuss books over the years for the way that they portray people, the way they portray race?
You know, I'll be honest and say no. It's probably mostly because I haven't read a lot of Dr. Seuss. So growing up in a urban-ish family, we just didn't, Dr. Seuss wasn't a part of our rhythm. And then as a Christian mother, I'm looking for Christ-centered material. And so again, I just haven't focused on Dr. Seuss, but I do understand the concern, and I'm thankful for the step.
Mm-hmm. And when you say you understand the concern, what is your response to people who are saying, hey, we're seeing racist images in these books? How should we respond to that?
Yeah, so I think the organization itself took the right step to evaluate their line and make the decision to take out 6 of them. And I think it's really important that we understand Dr. Seuss is not being canceled. They have evaluated their line and realized that there is harmful images that are being displayed. And so they are taking action on 6 books. And so that means that you can enjoy all the rest. And I think that's really important for us to think through. What is it that we're exposing our kids to that gives a message of hate or discrimination or stereotypes? And so I find it actually okay to make those evaluations and change as a result.
Right, and it's so fascinating because, you know, for so long, so many people have read these books and not thought about it, and now to say, okay, let's pause a little bit. I want to talk with you, too, about, from your perspective, what can you tell us about how the books that children read shape their understanding of race, and how important is it that minorities are portrayed in children's books and portrayed positively?
Yes, well, kids so often see themselves in the images. I know, just as one who's written 2 books where I hoped to capture images that were diverse, they're always looking, whether they're African American or they're Asian or they are white, they see themselves. And how we show those images that's so important. So showing them doing good things, letting them see that they are made in the image of God and that God created them and it's good, I think is so important. So it's essential, I think, that we've used this kind of cliche, but I think it still stands. Representation matters, and it does matter because we are. Images affect our hearts. I mean, even we could talk about all sorts of images. Let's even talk about women. Images affect our hearts and how we see ourselves. And so for us to be able to capture the beauty of diversity in books for kids, I think is so important for kids to learn that they are valued and worthy. Ultimately, their value and worth is from and in the Lord.
Yeah, but so interesting to think about how children's books can shape their understanding, too, even below the surface, if you will. You have a new book coming out for older kids called Creative God, Colorful Us. What prompted you to write this after writing a book about diversity for younger kids?
Yes, I actually have it, so I'm going to show it. But Creative God, Colorful Us is, it's a book for that kind of middle grade age. It prompted me because kids grow up. So I wrote a book that's for younger ages, 0 to maybe 6. And as I was talking to parents, I realized they're still trying to figure out age-appropriate engagement on the gospel, race, diversity, our sinful hearts, and how we can favorite play favorites towards other people. So how do we teach them? So Creative God Colorful Us helps kids continue to grow and learn about ultimately what the gospel says about this, what Jesus has to say about our ethnicity and our differences, and how we can repent when we go wrong here, and how we can ultimately love one another. And so it's just important as we're getting older that we could just continue to grow in our understanding in age-appropriate ways. And so this is one step closer towards hopefully, ultimately helping kids understand the gospel.
Absolutely. All right, Trillia Newbell, thanks for your time and what you're doing.
Thank you.
Coming up, a hopeful update from a beloved pastor recovering from heart surgery.
I am Regent's first ROTC graduate student.
Three, two, one. I'm Ephraim Graham. Welcome to Studio 5.
Get on it.
All that's new and now in the world of uplifting entertainment with celebrity interviews.
There's a higher contribution I will make.
Musical performances.
I'll give you my best praise.
Plus movie and TV news.
See it and be uplifted.
On Studio 5. Every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern at cbn.com/Studio 5.
How'd you like to get a redo on your health, on your body, on your arteries, so you could have the energy you had 20 years ago? The great news is you can. I'm Dr. Mike Roizen, chair of the Wellness Institute at the Cleveland Clinic. I've written 4 New York Times bestsellers. But even better than having to read all that, you can listen to this DVD and watch it. Protect your heart? Yes, you can. Here's how.
Go to CBN.com or call 1-800-700-7000 for your free copy of Protect Your Heart. Let the medical experts show you their new discoveries on how to avoid heart disease and even reverse it. Easy steps to uncover the hidden dangers in your medicine cabinet, reduce stress, and get a complete do-over for your health. Call 1-800-700-7000. That's 1-800-700-7000. Or go to CBN.com to claim your free copy of Protect Your Heart.
Things went better than expected for internationally known pastor Vadi Bakum, who underwent surgery for heart failure last week. The pastor and church planner was discharged from the Mayo Clinic after posting his last video update from his stint inside the medical center.
And wanted you to sort of see me with your own eyes to know that, that things are going well and that I'm doing well, that I'm on the mend, that God has been gracious, God has been kind.
A GoFundMe started by a friend of Bakum and president of Founders Ministries quickly surpassed the goal in helping with medical expenses. Bakum said he was overwhelmed by the outpouring of love, support, and prayers. And that's it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. Please remember that you can find more of our news programs on the CBN News Channel at any time or online with cbnnews.com. Also, please do tell us what you think about the stories that you've seen by emailing newswatch@cbn.com or just talk to us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We hope you have a great day.